25 years ago next week, on October 19, 1984, President Ronald Reagan signed Public Law 98-534, authorizing the establishment of a national memorial to honor America's law enforcement officers who made the supreme sacrifice while serving and protecting others. 7 years later, on October 15, 1991, this magnificent monument was dedicated, an inspiring and everlasting tribute to valor, to courage, to hope. And he has been a stalwart friend and supporter of the Memorial Fund and our efforts to honor America's law enforcement officers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Washington Field Office, Mr. Joseph Persicini.
There is a story behind each name we will read today. These agents and officers we dedicate our memory to today were born in different times, with different backgrounds, worked in different offices, but made the ultimate sacrifice. For as different as their circumstances were, they shared a great deal, a devotion to public service, a willingness to sacrifice, and a commitment to protecting America and their fellow citizens.
And ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great personal pleasure and honor to welcome a dear friend, an inspiration to all of us, Jenny Hill Obranovich.
Thank you. I want to thank Craig Floyd for asking me to speak today on behalf of the survivors. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be here and to speak to you on this 18th annual Wreathlaying Ceremony, the anniversary of the National Law Enforcement Memorial. 20 years ago, I was where many of you are today. That night in March, when I answered the knock at my door and saw then Alexandria Lieutenant Howard and the pastor of my church standing on my doorstep, my heart stopped. It is the call that no officer's spouse ever wants to get. Earlier in the day, Chuck had called me to let me know that there was a hostage barricade in the city. I told him I loved him and to be safe. Little did I know it would be the last thing I would say to him. How could I lose Chuck, my childhood sweetheart, and the father of my sons, Charlie and Rob, who were 7 and 4 years old at the time? My entire world crumbled around me, and if it were not for my children and the support of my family and friends, I was not sure if I would survive also. I felt I was alone and that no one understood. The law enforcement community made an effort to comfort my family and me, but all I could see was their pain at having lost one of their own. Someone would say, "I know how you feel," but they really did not know. How could they? That May, I attended my first National Police Survivors Week. Though Chuck would be honored the following year, I went and immediately felt I was not alone in what I was going through. The people I met were experiencing the same emotions I was going through. I remember the first time I came to this memorial after the dedication. Both of my sons made etchings of their dad's name that I have to this day. Seeing Chuck's name on the wall brought a completely new set of emotions to me. In some ways, it made his death final. While I wish there had never been a need to have this memorial, and it would not be necessary to add additional names to it, I am grateful that it does exist as a public recognition in honor of Chuck and all fallen officers. The lions protecting their cubs along the pathways give me a sense of peace and calm. They symbolize the role of our law enforcement officers, and they suggest the strength, courage, and bravery of the officers in law enforcement who protect us. And I would like to close with the words of survivor Vivian Eney that are etched on the walls of this memorial. It is not how these officers died that made them heroes. It is how they lived their lives. When you place your rose today, remember your officer, and remember how he or she lived their lives. See them standing strong and proud, smiling down on you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the